Hello, I'm Dakota. I'm talking about the causes of the French Revolution under King Louis the XVI of France. The French Revolution emerged from deep inequalities within the three states. Um, those three states is the First Estate, which comprises of the clergy. The Second Estate would be the nobility, and then the Third Estate is the commoners, the peasants, the middle class that comprise of the French people. This was the social order of France at this time. Um, my big idea is social systems, and I wanted to highlight how unequal hierarchies can destabilize societies, specifically France in this matter. This graph, or this picture over here, shows that the commoners, the third estate, bears the weight of France itself, while the clergy and the nobility are really helping with carrying the burden of France at this time. Some key causes: the inequality between the first, second, and third estates, heavy tax burdens falling on the poorest, government debt and financial crises, political conflict between the king and parliament, um, Enlightenment ideas, and the influence of the American colonies and what they stood for. This picture over here just shows again, the third estate, the commoners bearing the weight imposed upon them by the clergy and the nobility. Um, and then this picture on the right here shows Parliament, um, where the makeup of this was the clergy and the nobility held greater power over the commoners because their interests were very similar. Um, Even though the third estate, the commoners held, they they encompassed much more of the population, but they had unequal voting rights compared to the other two that saw a vast amount more of wealth and influence and political power. Some other contributing factors: feudal privilege reinforced inequality, absolutist governments could not adapt, peasant resentment and rural uprisings, and Enlightenment encouraged demands for more liberty and rights. During this time, the French crown would appoint other members of nobility or the clergy into offices of the state in turn for voting influence on the king's proposals. This also came with like tax incentives as far as like reduced taxes or taxation of the third estate much more than what they already were. Um, and a lot of the time, um, peasant resentment was growing much more greatly, and there was far more rural uprisings as depicted in this picture here. And then Enlightenment ideas were being spread, as the picture on the left depicts here. Um, so why it matters? The revolution showed how social inequality can destabilize an entire nation. It highlights the danger of ignoring the needs of lower classes. It reshaped Western political thought towards equality and rights. Um, you know, the way this structure continued through time, it just saw more more wealth extracted from this lower class. So the state depended on this lower class more and more and more, and it just got to the point where they couldn't support the whole French state anymore, while these upper classes were still trying to live um, their bougie lifestyle, and it it just came to a forefront. Um, the king did try to make um, some changes in the way this was structured, but ultimately the other nobility and the clergy refused to give up any of their privileges, and they wanted even more political control. So this just led to even greater, gridlock in the parliament system. And the lower classes, they had a voice, but it was often just completely overlooked and cast aside. They didn't matter, even though they were the ones that were supporting the whole French state and crown and their lifestyle. Um, and ultimately, in the picture on the right shows, it came to the forefront when, the French population said they had enough. They saw that, when they supported the American colonies, that when they became free, their form of government, with representatives and such from Enlightenment ideals of equality and rights, that just highlighted to them that that form of government can work, and we need to make a change in France that ultimately led to the attack on the Bastille in France and sparking the revolution in France. My personal takeaways are that I learned how deeply unequal, the old French regime had became over time. I was surprised by how much the financial crisis and political feuds between the upper classes were on like taxation and how they ran the state had fueled for the inevitable outcome of revolt. Um, this project showed me how social systems shaped history and its contribution to our modern society. Um, my favorite part in understanding how all these different parts of the society functioned and intermingled and contributed to France and the actions that ultimately caused the French Revolution. My least favorite part was trying to find the correct sources needed to describe or highlight the issues in France at the time and how in the end it led to revolution. It was very time consuming, and reading through trying to find the right documents that best highlighted uh, this great divide in society and how it inevitably um, destroyed an empire and started another one right after with Napoleon and that whole fiasco. Um, so yeah, that was my take on the causes of the French Revolution. Thank you.